I'm going to share some thoughts and lessons I've learned from my own life with you today. We hope it gives you ideas. You might find some of the tools I'll give you useful or new. It's like going to a place where everyone has already held 100,000 classes, but I think I can give you some new ideas. I'd like to tell you a chicken soup story. Norman Cousins sent in a story. Norman was the editor of Saturday Review magazine. It was his idea to use the word psychoneuroimmunology to describe how your mind and mood can affect your nervous system and immune system. We know that the happier and more cheerful you are, the less likely you are to get sick, and the faster you recover if you do get sick. He sent in this story called The Wee Nurse. Raise your hand if any of you have been in the hospital overnight. Please show your hands. Have you ever had a little nurse? A little nurse would come in the morning and ask, "Did we sleep well last night? We didn't eat all of our breakfast today, did we?" One of his favorite things she would do was ask, "We haven't had a bowel movement yet today, have we?" This got on his nerves. She thought about getting back at her one day, so she came in and asked for a small plastic cup. He told her, "Okay, if you'll leave the room, we'll get one." She did, and they went out into the hall. When he came back, he saw a glass of apple juice on his breakfast tray that he hadn't drunk yet. He got the apple juice, put it in the sample cup, and pressed the little bell. When she came back in, he gave it to her. "My, we're a little cloudy today, aren't we?" she asked. "Here, give it back," he said. He took it back from her, took off the cap, drank it all, and then said, "Let me run it through again for you. I'll see if I can make it come out clearer this time." I was at the Golden Buddha in Bangkok at the moment. How many of you have been to Thailand's Bangkok? The Golden Buddha has been seen by how many of you? The Jade Buddha, the Golden Buddha, and the Seated Buddha are the three sights that every tourist must see. This Buddha is 10.5 feet tall and made of pure gold. Just the gold is worth about $196 million. That's not even talking about the value as art or history. I was next to the Golden Buddha while my wife took that shot. The piece of clay was about 1 foot wide, 2 feet tall, and 2 feet thick. It was in a big glass case. It also said that they didn't know there was a Golden Buddha in 1953. This big clay Buddha was being moved from one side of Bangkok to the other so that a new road could go through. It was very heavy, so they used the crane to pick it up. As they did so, a big crack appeared in it. The head monk got scared when the crack went through it, so he dropped the Buddha and said, "We should check it out to see if we did any damage." It started to rain, so they covered it with a cloth to keep it dry. The monk came out that night and shined a flashlight in to make sure it was still dry. From inside the crack, something came back to me. That night, he told them, clay doesn't reflect light. There must be something else in there. The next morning, they chip it away at the back, where they wouldn't see it if they made a mistake. To their surprise, they found this Golden Buddha. Their best guess is that the monks of this monastery put clay over the Golden Buddha 300 years ago when the Burmese were fighting Thailand to make it look useless so the thieves wouldn't take it. They also think that all the monks were killed in a murder and that the secret died with them. But then they found it again. What does the word discover mean? Remove the cap. That cover had been there all along, but they took it off. That night I had dinner with my wife, and she told me, "You know, Jack, that Buddha is like all the people who come to our seminars. They come in with a cover of clay, which is their negative beliefs, their self-doubt, their shame and guilt, their thoughts that they're not enough, that they're not worthy, that they don't deserve. And what we really do is take off the clay so that this golden essence can come and be there as who they are again, their true identity. It's not like we put on a mask." As we go through the next hour and a half, please hold that image of the Buddha in your mind. You can call it the Golden Christ, the Golden Buddha, the Atman, the Source, or anything else you like. That's who you are. And while we do a lot of things to help you by giving you more information and tools, as Harp said, if you stop doing the bad things, you've already been defined. When you came in, you were fine, and, as you heard this morning, oh, I was listening. I have a great room right over here where I could fit and listen to what was going on down here. The person who was introducing said, "You know about this combination lock idea, and I think you had 10 24/7. Yeah. And think about that model. I was having dinner with the Alabama state chess champion, and we were talking about success. He said, if UK, what I've learned might work, and I've been doing this work for 30 years. It all began with a man named W. Clement Stone, who was worth $600 million in 1968, and he taught me everything he knew about success. I've been using it in my own life and teaching it to others. I've also gone to India and studied with masters and other people over the years. Although there is a catch. Today, I'd like to just remind us of some things and maybe share some new ones that you might have forgotten. For example, this is J. Paul Getty. He wasn't always the richest man in America. When people asked him what the secrets to success were, he said, "Get up early, work hard, and find oil." That's it. Obviously, it's not that simple. At Keller Williams, a real estate sales company, they have a formula or system. They say that if you make 5 in-person sales calls and 10 phone calls every day, write 15 thank you notes to the 15 people you talk to, and look at 5 new properties, that system always works well for them. So it's a formula or system. Again, 5, 10, 15, 5. Again, this morning, 10, 24/7, that you've learned in peak potentials. So there are some formulas. Now, when I studied this, I came up with 64 universal principles that I've studied over the last 36 years. I don't expect to share all those with you today. Maybe we'll get through 9 if we're lucky. This is a book I wrote called The Success Principles. It's now in 17 languages. You can see a couple of them up there. The one on the far left is in Russia, and I was just speaking in Cannes last week in France to 6,500 women from Russia, the Ukraine, and Kazakhstan. I found out my name over there is Duke. Literally, we'd come out of the hotel, and it'd be 500 women gone, Duke. Yeah, photo, Jack, autographed, Jack. And I was suddenly glad I'm not Brad Pitt because you couldn't move. But anyway, this book has really taken Russia by storm, and there's one man who stood up and said, "You know, I bought 100 copies of your book and gave them to everyone in my village, and our village is totally changed. We've changed how we run our businesses and how we govern ourselves." This shows that these ideas aren't just American ideas. They work everywhere. I'll also talk about some of the new ideas I have about the law of attraction that have to come from The Secret. I think there are some things that are missing in that movie, things we said but the director cut out. That would be helpful to talk about. That's where we're going today. Now, would you rather take the short route or the long route to success? Good, me too. Wouldn't it make sense to skip the maze and go straight for the cheese? That's why I've spent my life trying to go further and faster with less effort. My next book is called Effortless Success. Alan Cohen, who we talked about yesterday, has a book called Effortless Success that I bought at the airport and read on the way to Denver yesterday before I came. My promise to you is that if you follow what I teach you, you can learn to double your income, double your time off, and make your life more balanced and fun. All of my students do this in 2 years or less. It's easy to do if you put in the time and decide to do the work. Now, about my life, Mark told you this morning that we've sold over 110 million copies of our books in 47 languages. This is little Marky Hansen from Waukegan, Illinois, and little Jack. He can't believe he grew up in West Virginia. When I was a kid, West Virginia was the 248th worst state in the country for education. That's when Alaska and Hawaii weren't states, so we were at the bottom. My mum was an alcoholic, and my dad was a workaholic, and sometimes abusive. She divorced him when I was 6 to keep the kids from getting hit, so if I can do it, so can you. I graduated from the half of my college class that made the top half possible. Just remember that it's not about how smart you are, but how you use your brain to do the work. Okay, Mark and I also hold a Guinness Book of World Record. You may already know that we had 7 books on the New York Times bestseller list in one day. I tell you this not to brag about myself, but to show you that if a little kid from West Virginia who got a C in composition in college can become a best-selling author, then anyone in this area can do anything. Publisher Rota wrote me a check for $1 million and 33 ponzaros, which is 35 cents. It was the first check he ever wrote for $1 million, and he signed it with a smiley face. Mark and I got 4 of those checks that year, and that might create a conversation that might be a little bit uncomfortable, but without taking that risk, I can't create what I want. If all the women in the world tomorrow died except for my wife, and I came to work, would I be complaining about my wife? No, I'd be going, hey, there's only one woman, and guess what? I got it. You only complain when there's a possibility of something better. Complaining tells you there's something I want, I don't have. And when you complain, that's not an activity that's going to produce it. It's simply something that says, I'm going to complain about it, rather than do anything about it. Give up all justifying for why you didn't achieve your results, all defending your positions that don't work, and all excuse-making. Now, I met this kid named Addy Christensen when he was 11 years old. We were interviewing him for one of our chicken soup books, and he said, if you look at the picture, you'll notice he has no arms past the elbow and no legs past the knee. He has 2 prosthetic devices on his knee that replace his legs and feet. One of them is an arm prosthetic with a lacrosse stick attached to it, so that arm can be both his throwing hand and his catching glove. His baseball team, Maddies, was ranked 2nd in the state of New York when he was 11 years old. He was the starter. That means that you can still choose to make things happen and become a winner, no matter what your situation is. He told me, you have to give up all of your excuses and find a way. He also said, if you want to be successful, you have to be a problem solver instead of a complainer. An 11-year-old boy was giving me a lesson on how to be successful. We can change 3 things in your life right now: your thoughts, your pictures, and how you act. You may know that Harv gives a talk called The Millionaire Mind. It's about how our thoughts can control our world. Let's take a quick look at thoughts. I hope we can get through this. Let's see how the weather holds out. Please look at the tip of your hand. You can see that there is a small line going across your wrist. Everyone has a small depression or wrinkle that goes across that, and you'll have one on the other side too. Here's what I want you to do. Line them up perfectly, then put your hands together so that they start straight from that line. If you're like most people, one of your hands will be a little longer than the other. Put your shorter hand in front of your face. That's what most of you find. Make sure both of your hands are the same length. Then put one hand in front of your face. Do what I tell you. We both come from California, so we do a lot of strange things there. I want you to look at your hand and say 8 times out loud, grow longer. Okay, let's just try to make our hand longer. Let's do it together. 1, 2, 3. Grow longer, 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 grow longer. Okay, stop. Put them in line the same way you did before, and look what happened. With cheers. How many of you thought it got longer? Good job. In other words, this shows that our thoughts and intentions have power over matter, starting with our bodies. We can see that we do have that kind of power over matter everywhere in the world. I have good news and bad news. The good news is that we can do this. The bad news is that so far, the study has only been on the hands. Okay, So I want you to argue about that for a long time. Now, let's talk about the internet. You've all heard of it and used it. You all have Blackberries and can make and receive cordless calls. Right now, we can call someone in Singapore and talk to them. How does that do its thing? You can feel waves in the air. The amplitude tells you how high the wave goes, and the frequency tells you how often it goes up and down. These amplitudes and frequencies can be used to make information, store information, and send it all over the world. I now know that the term internet came from a friend of mine named Bob Seinfeld, who wrote a book about ending the busting list from the money game. He made the point that every thought we have is sent around the world like a huge email over this thing, which he calls the internet. We know it works and goes a long way because astronauts are used in research. Astronauts will be sent to the moon or to lunar modules 250,000 miles above the Earth, and they will be asked to open envelopes at random times. Inside will be a shape like a square, circle, pentagon, parallelogram, or rectangle, and they will look at it and focus on it for a few minutes while researchers watch. They get a strong connection between what they send, which isn't just random. They can pick up this thought form without any technology, energy waves, radio waves, or other things that would make it stronger. We now know that our minds can go 250,000 miles away. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "Great men are those who see that spiritual thought is stronger than any material force, that their thoughts rule the world." Our thoughts do indeed move around the world. People who study quantum physics, neuroscience, and metaphysics are now thinking that 1 hour of inner work, working with visualization, the law of attraction, affirmations, and the power of intention, like you did with Grow Longer, will actually get the same results as 7 hours of physical labor in the world. Some of you may have heard of Dr. Masaru Emoto's work called The Messages of Water. Good job. Emoto's work shows that thinking about water changes the way its molecules are arranged. So they had the students say mean things to a bottle of water, like, "You fool, you idiot." What would happen? To see if the water forms crystals, they will freeze it to 20 degrees below zero and put it in a petri dish. After a while, they will take the dish out and put it under a microscope during melting. Something blobby and black forms when you send bad energy. But when you send love, thanks, or thank you, these beautiful crystals that look like snowflakes appear. We now know that negative critical energy makes one form and positive energy makes another. Then he asked, how far does this will to love the water go? So, over the course of 2 hours, 10,000 Japanese sent love to all the water in the world. In July of last year, they took samples of the water the day before and the day after, and look what happened. This is water that was taken from Lake Biwa, Japan's biggest freshwater lake, the day before. It's a dull kind of energy. We see that these beautiful crystals have formed after 2 days. This is Lake St. Croix, which is on the St. Croix River near Minnesota and Wisconsin. This is the day before, and this is the day after. We get these crystals the next day. We're thinking about the Mississippi River, which is halfway around the world, and our thoughts are still affecting it. Your body is 80 to 85% water, though you're probably only 75% today because you haven't been drinking enough. The point is that we are all water, and our thoughts are affecting each other and us. What does this tell us about being successful? Every time you think something like, they're not going to buy my product, they won't like my record, they're not going to hire me, we're not going to find a parking space. You are sending out energy that prepares the way you'll be driven and the response you will receive, especially when it comes to people, because you're telling them how to think. People already have an opinion about you before you even meet them, so when you walk in, they already have an opinion about you. When I first started taking classes 30 years ago, we would bring people right into the room. People would come in on a people mover the day before a meeting and be interviewed there. We called it a laboratory or a workshop refuge. In order to make a choice, what do you need to know about me? What gets on your nerves? What scares you? What makes you say yes? And we would get all of this information from them because it's all out there. Because all of their thoughts are stored in waves, like a Google or other cache that you can use to get the information you need. That's why it's important to understand and use our mind's power. Even though most of you already know this, it's still important to see how far this goes. Again, your thoughts and feelings are what make your reality. Your reality is not what makes your thoughts and feelings happen. Now, each thought you send is a wave. I'd like to tell you a story. One day, Mark and I made up our minds that we would sell 1 million books in one day. Before that, no one had ever done that. She's done it with, I think, the 3rd Harry Potter book since then. At that point, there was no one to look up to or ask, "How did you do it?" so we can do it the same way. We only had a vision and a goal, and we began to hold this in our minds. We saw a picture every day. The New York Times headline, "Can't feel, enhance and sell 1 million books in one day." We could picture that. We planned for it. We worked hard at it. It was something we talked about. We made up stories about it. We thought it was possible. After about 35 days, we're at this meeting in New York, which is where the American Booksellers Association event is held. Following the meeting, I take a bus back to my hotel. This woman sits down next to me and asks, "Are you Jack Canfield?" I told her, yes, thinking she already knew who I was. "I'm really cool." "It's your name tag," she said, which made me feel a little less proud. Then she asked, "What are you and Mark doing? You're the chicken soup guys, right?" I said, "Yes, chicken soup." I told her, "We just decided to sell 1 million books in one day." She said, "Really? I can help you do that." I asked, "Really? How?" She said, "I'm the buyer for the W.H. Smith bookstores. If you've ever been to an airport, most of them have a W.H. Smith bookstore. After that, we'll put you on a plane and fly you to places like Cleveland, Detroit, and Chicago. After that, we'll fly you again, maybe to Salt Lake City and Dallas, and we'll take you all the way across the country. We could have you sign books in California, Portland, Oregon, and Washington, D.C. in the evening." I asked, "Why would you help us do that?" At that point, she called me dummy and said, "Dummy, don't you think that if I sold 1 million books in one day, my boss might think I'm a superstar?" They said, "Absolutely. I understand." A lot of people would now say, "Oh, you were lucky. Not by chance did you get that person to sit down next to you." I reply, "No, Jack and Mark want to sell 1 million books in one day. We sent out an email about it. If you want to play, please reply." She replied by sitting next to me on the bus. When you use the law of attraction, you don't always get the thing you want. For example, the car doesn't magically appear in your garage. But you do get the resources, strategies, magazine articles, books, seminars, and people like this sitting next to you on the bus saying, "Hey, I can partner with you. I told you a few months ago, I want to go to the Olympics in Beijing. I've only been to the Olympics once, in Los Angeles, so I want to go." 30 days later, I walk into Isogenics, a company I speak for, to give them a big motivational speech. As I walk in, a Chinese man asks me, "Are you Jack Canfield?" He asked, "Have you ever spoken in China?" I said, "Nice." He asked, "How would you like to do that?" I replied, "Hong Kong, but not mainland China." That was great, and then I added, "Even better, I'd like to get tickets to the Olympics." He replied, "Oh, that's a done deal." He walked up to me and said, "I can get that for you." Now, these people will start coming into your life. You have to do some things, but it gets really, really exciting. You may remember that in the movie The Secret, there are 3 steps: ask, believe, and receive. Today, I want to talk a little more about the ask part. The success principle I write about in my book is called to decide exactly what you want, which is the asking part. Having preferences, having desires, setting goals, having a vision, having objectives, becoming a millionaire, etc. "Oh no," she said. "Describe your ideal partner. I'm sure of what I want." I told her, "I'll teach you how to use the law of attraction, but first I want to make sure I understand." She said, "Okay. I want a guy who doesn't smoke, doesn't mess around, doesn't watch TV all weekend, isn't a sports fanatic, and never spends time at dinner." She then told me 11 things she didn't want in a partner. It does not work. You need to think about the good things instead of the bad. This is a man named Lou Holtz. Lou Holtz coached the Notre Dame football team to many national titles and bowl game titles, among other things. He just wrote a book called Wins, Losses and Lessons. A year ago, I wrote or edited a book called You've Got to Read This Book, and Gay Hendricks and I talked to 55 people about the book that had changed their lives. Did a book change your life? There were a few claps. He said, "Yes, there was a book that changed my life. It was called The Magic of Thinking Big by David Schwartz. The book is over with you. Write on." David Schwartz says in that book that you should write down all the things you want to do before you die. He gives you a list of 100 things to do. Mark might not have said that this morning. Lou Holtz had just lost his job. He had lost his job as an assistant football coach and was at home. To make money to feed them, his wife had to go back to work as a doctor. She came home one day and said, "I was at the store and they were selling this book called The Magic of Thinking Big. Why don't you read it?" He did. On paper, he made 107 goals for himself. He was very happy when his wife came home at night. She saw it from him. He stated, "Honey, look, 107 things I want to achieve in my life. Thank you for this book. It's got me real excited. Once you read my list." She read the list. She then told him, "Lou, you need to add one more goal to the list." He asked, "What is that?" She replied, "Find a job. Find a job, Lou. We need a job." He now had 108 goals. When I interviewed Lou, who is now in his 70s, he said, "I have achieved 102 of those 108 goals. Some of those goals were to win a national football championship, eat dinner at the White House with the President, meet the Pope, visit the Vatican, go on the Johnny Carson late-night show, and land an airplane on an aircraft carrier." He said that goals show you the way. They make you feel like your life is moving forward. In the first Chicken Soup for the Soul book, we also wrote about John Goddard. When he was 15, he set 127 goals. He is now 70 years old. He has reached 115 of his 127 goals. That's why I want all of you to do it. It will help you figure out what you want in life. You should do that exercise before you get home, whether it's on the bus or something else. If you haven't already, think about what 101 goals you want to achieve. One of the people I interviewed, General Wesley Clark, told me that having a big dream doesn't take more work or time than having a small dream. Barbara talked today about dreams of making the world a better place by putting your impact, energy, and input into it. Lots of hopes and dreams. Today on Live Earth, Mark talks about stopping hunger and biofuel. We're also talking about making the Earth sustainable in a way that is good for the environment, fair for everyone, and good for business. Those are very big goals. You can set as many big goals as you want, but don't go overboard. That's what you need to do. Walt said, "If you can dream it, you can do it." You're not allowed to have a dream that you don't have the capacity to create, either through your own efforts or the efforts of gathering a team together. By the way, how many of you have GPS in your car? So, how many of you know what a GPS is? Yes, it's easy. Please get in my car. I need Alexis to get in there first. I will then type in an address. When I type in an address in Colorado, it shows me how to get from where I live in Santa Barbara to Colorado on a map. I don't need to know how to get there. It's also true for you. The how will become clear once you have a goal. Not enough of us are calm. We don't think we can reach the big goal, so we're not going to set it. We don't want to look stupid. It's not what we want to do to make a promise and then be let down. To say it again, you don't need to know how to do something. You just need to know what you want. And once you know that, the how will become clear. This is a great image. I believe Harv used it in 2 talks. That if you drive in the dark is that if I use it in mine too, and I put that in the secret, you may remember. When you drive at night, you can only see 100 yards ahead of you. You only need to look at that. This is why Mark and I chose to write a book of stories. We had no idea how to find an agent. We had no idea how to find a distributor. Anyway, around the middle of the book, we met an agent at a party. We asked her, "How do you get a book published?" And she said, "I'll be your agent." We then went to New York, but 2,433 companies, whatever they were, turned us down. After that, we went. The agent gave us the book back and said, "I can't sell it. You have to sell it." Someone told us to go to the Booksellers Association convention, where 4,000 publishers had booths with their acquisition editors. Health Communications finally chose to put it out there. We didn't know how to sell it, so we asked 11 people, such as John Gray and Barbara DeAngelis. He's going to talk here. We asked Stephen Covey, Ken Blanchard, author of The 1 Minute Manager, and Harold Bloomfield, author of the TM book on Transcendental Meditation. All 3 had written best-selling books, and they told us to do 5 things every day for 14 months. 14 months went by before we made it to a bestseller list. But once we did, as Mark said this morning, we stayed at the top of that New York Times list for 3 years. We didn't even think about that when the second book came out. Oh, a second book, and then a third in the 4th. There are now about 125 books out there. Then someone said, "Hey, we'd like to license your brand for what? Dog food." I started kidding. We're going to retire on dog food. Chicken soup for the pet lover soul. Cat food and dog food. So you won't see the whole picture, but if you just start, I promise you the how will show up. People will give you books and tell you to go to seminars. You'll meet the right people at the right time. Another thing I want to talk about quickly, and this is a slightly different take on the law of attraction, is that I've been talking to people about attracting what we want into our lives, like the $1 million, the perfect spouse, or the perfect home. I want you to think about this too. Everything you're drawn to is part of your body's way of telling you, this is it. I remember going to a workshop with my wife. It was a conference of humanistic psychologists. My wife is very into, how to say that? She's much more into people, relationships, and pets. Shoveling horse poop out of our horses' stalls in her barn is her favorite thing to do, and doesn't care much about money. So I told her, I'm going to this money seminar where a guy was saying you could triple your in. I told her, asked her what she did. She's a veterinarian. And I said, "Really? What do you excel in?" "Anything," I asked. "Yeah, cat leukemia." I replied, "That's interesting. My cat has leukemia, and my vet told me it can't be cured." She replied, "No, we've actually found a way to cure it." I asked, "Really?" And as a result of that meeting, our cat got cured of feline leukemia. See, you never know. You never know whatever you're attracted to. See, because the universe, infinite intelligence, God, source, whatever you want to call it, your own unconscious, it can see farther than you. Like right now, you can see from wherever you are up here, but you can't see behind you. But God, or source, or infinite intelligence is way up here. It sees everything. It sees the traffic jam 20 miles down the road, and all of a sudden you get this intuitive impulse, "Yeah, I think I'll take the mountain pass today." Well, that's stupid, no, but if you take it, you'll avoid the accident, or you'll avoid the traffic. You've got to learn to trust your inspirations As soon as you set a goal, as soon as you have an intention and you believe in it, and then you get rid of the self-doubt and you have a positive expectancy, you fully expect it to happen. What happens is, you're gonna start getting a little inspirations. You'll be sitting there typing a paper, and all of a sudden you'll get this inspiration to walk down the street, maybe take Mrs. Jones, who's a new widow, or some cookies, and you think, well, why would I do that? But let's say you do it. You walk down, bring her some cookies, and have some tea. Then she says, oh, and by the way, my son-in-law is here. Let me introduce you to him. You go in, meet the son-in-law, and find out that he's a Porsche dealer selling a used Porsche for just the right amount of money for you to buy the Porsche you've always wanted. Things like that will keep happening. If you've heard of the spiritual community in Scotland called Findhorn, the man who started it, Peter Caddy, tells a story about drinking tea with his wife, Eileen Caddy, and getting the intuitive feeling that he should go see his friend Bob. He didn't act on it for an hour, but an hour later he got up and drove to London or wherever it was. 3 quick ways to make it clear what you want in life and how to ask for it. The irritation list. One of them we just talked about. I'm going to talk about a different one here for a minute. It's called the irritation list. My suggestion is you go back to your home, your house, your apartment, wherever you live, and you make a list of everything that isn't exactly the way you want it, anything that irritates you. There's never a stapler by the Xerox machine, the screen door never quite closes, and the bugs come in. That picture always hangs at an angle. You put it straight in and it hangs at an angle again, or there's a crack in the wall, or you know the kitchen drawers are a total mess, or you can't find stuff in the garage or in a closet. These things don't fit. Those things don't work. Your kid's room's a mess all the time. There's a smell coming out of it. You know, whatever it might be, write it down, and then make another half of the sheet of paper and write exactly the way you'd like it to be. Throw away the half of the paper about what you don't want, and then go and fix everything so you get exactly what you want. Take a day or 2 and schedule it. Clean up as many of those little things as you can, and people go, why should I do that? I want to be a millionaire, I'm focusing on world peace, and you want me to be worried about my sock drawer. And the answer is yes, because when you don't do it, get exactly what you want in the little areas of your life. What you do is you slip into a state called resignation. You start believing you can't have it the way you want it. You actually numb out your awareness to not feed that thing anymore. If any of you ever noticed if you have a little crack in the wall and you don't fix it within a month, you stop noticing it, and then a year later someone says, you've got a big crack in your wall. But you stop noticing it, it just became part of the background. Most people are going through life resigned, settling. Most of us are settling. Most of you here are not. You've made a choice to go for your life and create it the way you want it, and believe, have what you want. But do this irritation list, clean up all the little things and the big things, commit to at least 1 a quarter that you're going to get rid of. And you can set a date for cleaning out the garage, you can set a date for the new filing system, or getting the car that works, or whatever it is that's important to you. As we've already talked about, make sure you do the second thing we talked about, the 101 goal list. If you've seen the book, 1001 Places You Should Visit Before You Die, I mean, that's a lot of things you can put on your list. We just finished southern France, which was fun. Nice in Tropez, topless beaches. What else is on our list? It was fun when my son said, Dad, you always talk about taking me to Europe. So my 16-year-old son and I went to London, Barcelona and Paris and stayed for 4 days in each place. We had a great time. We had it written down and he knew it was there, so it happened. Health fitness goals. The third thing is called the vision exercise. Most of you know about the power of vision, but I'd like to just share this with you real quickly. You focused a lot about finances, millionaire mind, how much money do you want, financial independence, never have to work again. Also, look at your business and career goals. Maybe you want to open up China as a market. Maybe you want to be the salesman of the year in your company. Maybe you want to have a whole different career path that you want to go toward. Maybe you'd like to win an award or be elected president of your professional association. What's your vision for your ideal business and career life? Most people have that stuff down, but how many of you have goals for how much fun you're going to have this year? What kind of fun you're going to have this year that's measurable and specific in your vision of your life for the next year, or the next 2 years, or the next 5 years? You need to have your fun time goals. My wife and I, at the beginning of every year, schedule all of our vacations. We take about 10 long weekends, 4-day weekends. This year, we're taking 5-week-long vacations. We just finished one in the south of France in August. We're doing a week in La Jolla with my family. We just came back from Africa in March, where we spent a week, and so on and so forth. Schedule the time, because otherwise, it never happens. Maybe you want to take salsa dancing lessons. Maybe you'd like to take an improvisational class. Maybe you'd like to do stand-up comedy. All kinds of wonderful things you can do, but you've got to schedule them into your life. Relationships. Goals. Do you know what your cholesterol level is if that's one of your health and fitness goals? Do you want to compete in a marathon, biathlon, or triathlon? Or maybe, and I'm a year into my health and fitness goals, I want to get rid of my toenail fungus. Has anyone else had that yellow toenail fungus? Most people just accept it as old guy's toes disease, thinking there's nothing they can do about it. Well, if you take olive leaf extract. In terms of relationship goals, how many of you have written down what you want to do in the next year? I'm just curious. Not too many. One year, my goal was to make 5 new guy friends. We just moved to Santa Barbara, and what happens for most men as you move? If you have kids, you move to a new town. Your wife goes and takes the kids to school. Your kids form friends. Your wife gets to know the parents of your kids' friends, and that becomes your social network. And I didn't like any of the husbands of my wife's new friends. It just didn't interest me, and none of them were into personal growth. Men I'm with were meditating. None of them had a sense of a larger purpose in the world. These were boring to me. So I made a goal to have 5 really close friends by the end of the year. So it wasn't just casual, it was a deliberate intention. As a result of that, a strategy came up when I was meditating a couple of weeks later, and every 2 weeks I invited someone to have lunch with me. It started with the guy who was a wrestling coach at UCSB, and then it turned out who knew the police chief of our town, a really cool guy. Someone mentioned that I had lunch with them really ended up becoming very close friends, and so on and so forth. So now I have guys I play poker with, people we play bowls, which is a fun game, like, bocce ball kind of thing. I have other people I'd meditate with, and we do personal growth things together, and so forth and so on. But it was a specific goal for the year in terms of relationships. And then the area of personal. Personal will be personal growth, emotional growth, things you want to do that grow you. It could be learning to play the piano. It could be learning French. We heard Art Linkletter speaking, I think, like languages. So what are your goals in the personal area? And then finally, have a vision for your life in terms of contribution and legacy. All right. There's a man named Kenneth Baring who used to co-own the Seattle Seahawks and was worth about $500 million at the time. I don't know what his net worth is now. It's probably higher. He said his life had 4 stages. The first stage was called stuff. He said, I wasn't happy, so I thought if I had a lot of stuff, I'd be happy. So he made a lot of money and bought a lot of stuff. Well, maybe I was collecting the wrong stuff, he said. That's when he started the part where people call him different stuff. That's when he said, I bought the Seattle Seahawks. That made me look for a professional football team that would make me happy. But he wasn't happy. Then a friend called and said, "I'm going to Bosnia with a plane full of kids in wheelchairs who were born with birth defects or lost their legs to landmines." So he and his friends started making plans. They flew to Bosnia, got off the plane, and started putting all the kids in wheelchairs. He said, "I picked up this first kid. He was about 11 years old and very thin, and put him in a wheelchair. The kid wouldn't let go of me when I tried to leave to get another wheelchair. When I turned around, I saw that he was crying. He told them, 'Please don't leave yet.' The third translator told them, 'I just want to look at your face so I can remember it.' He said, 'I started to cry uncontrollably.' They told him it was the first time in his life he felt pure joy. This caused Ken to come back and start the Wheelchair Foundation. More than 400,000 bikes have been given to kids all over the world. He said, 'I've never been happier in my life.' Now he's started a new foundation because clean water is one of the world's biggest problems. There are a huge number of people who are sick and have cataracts because they don't have clean water. So he began building the new base. 'I've never been happier in my life,' he said. This last part of his life is what he calls his journey. A lot of people have said this, but he wrote a book called A Life of Purpose. The point is that helping is what brings real happiness. Bob Proctor, I know we'll talk about this again tomorrow. I love this thought. He told you that making a lot of money is very important. He said that money is helpful. He said, if you don't have money, the only good thing you can do is show up. You see, I could go to a homeless shelter and do a lot of things, like hug kids, read stories, brush people's hair, and so on, but only when I'm physically there. We give away millions of dollars when we have money, like Mark, me, and many of the other people here. Yosemite National Forest now has more than 1 million trees. We thought that since we had used up a lot of paper making books, we should plant some more applause. For some reason, it's cool to go there and see all these little trees coming up. This is really cool. The point is that you want to use your power for good. Mark talks a lot about making enlightened millionaires, or people who give away at least $1 million. And if you make 1 million millionaires who each give away $1 million, that's $1 trillion in donations around the world. It's not hard to do. It's not really a big game. Think about how easy it is. Okay, so these are the 7 vision groups. For a short time, I'd like you to close your eyes and trust that your things won't blow away in the wind area. I'm going to talk about each of these groups. Allow yourself to be still for 30 seconds, and I want you to think about what you really want in that area of your life. This should come from your inner child, your better self, or the part of you that knows what you want. Also, I'd say to think about the next 2 years. What would you like to say you've done in 2 years in terms of money, job, or something else? So let's go inside for a bit so you're not paying attention to me, and just give a speech. We'll just take it all in a little more deeply. Take a deep breath, close your eyes, and then take another deep breath. Then let go of everything. You can feel the wind and a little bit of water on your face. Don't forget that rain is good for you. It's time to get rid of the old and make room for the new. Hawaii, where people believe that rain is a good sign. It's how God blesses the event. We're about to receive a great gift. So think about the money part. What do you really want deeply in your heart when it comes to money in 2 years? What do you want to have been done? What do you want that to be? Following that, think about the business and job world. What do you want to get done? What does your dream for what you'll have done in 2 years, music, look like? Then pay attention to the area of fun and relaxation. What do you hope to be able to say you've done or seen that was truly fun or relaxing in 2 years? Anything to do with travel. After that, think about health and exercise. What do you want to have done in that part of your life? It could be that you're losing weight, having more energy, being more flexible, or eating better. Then think about the part that deals with people. In the area of partnerships, what do you want to have done? Then think about your own life. What are some things you want to have done just because you want to? Is it for your own personal growth or development, your spiritual growth, or your education? Finally, the area of service. Where would you like to help out? Where do you want your cash to go? What do you want the world to be different after you work hard? Good job. When you're ready, open your eyes and come back. And when you have a chance, which might not be right now, write that down. Get it on paper, share it with your partner, put it on the fridge, and look at it every day. I have 3 goals in each of those areas, for a total of 21 goals a year. Then I put a picture on an 8.5 by 11 sheet. You can find them on Google Images or in magazines. I put them under a page cover and write a small statement and a clear, measurable goal on top of them. And then I think about that every day. I look at it, picture it, and feel what I would feel if I already had it. Then I reach at least 18 of those 21 goals every year. And in 2 years, I reach the 3 goals I didn't reach the first time. There's a lot of good things in my life that I could look back on. All of it. The bigger goals, like changing schooling, making the world peaceful, and stopping hunger, are still being worked on. But all of those things are moving along pretty well based on the measurements we're taking into account. Next, you need to set goals that can be measured. We won't go over that here either. How much do you want to make more money? And by when? Just how much? Describe it. I'd like to double my income changes to, I will earn $350,000 by midnight, December 31st, 2008, at 5 p.m. Clear. I want to be a millionaire turns into, I will be worth $1 million by December 31st, 2009, at 5 p.m. Want to lose weight and get fit? It could be, I will lose 190 pounds and finish a 10K run by December 30th, 2007. Let me talk to you a little more about the law of attraction. We know that the law of attraction always works, just like gravity. I was asked that the other day while we were shooting a PBS show. It will be a pledge drive event in Boston like the one they had yesterday. And one of the people in the audience asked, well, what about Darfur? What about Katrina? And what about 9/11? I'm now starting to believe, I didn't believe this 3 years ago, that everything that comes into our lives is caused by our actions, our thoughts, our fears, our fantasies, the things we talk about, and the things that we do. In fact, we make more of everything. I want you to be very, 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 very careful about what you think, what you read, what you watch, and what you talk about, because we have strong feelings about it. About 3 months ago, Mark Victor Hansen and I were in New York. We were getting awards for our books at a conference. Afterward, around 10 p.m., we went out to dinner and talked until 2 a.m. During those 4 hours, neither of us said a single bad thing about anyone or anything. The network was all about, how do we do it? Where do we do it? What's happening? What's good? Mark told me about his projects, and I said, that's great. How can I help you? You need to meet this person. I just met that person. Mark said, wow, we can educate a kid in Africa for $120 a year. We can send him to college in Africa. I didn't know it was that cheap. I didn't know you could do that. We talked about microloans, education, and studies that shows that teaching young girls in distant areas is the fastest way to end world hunger. Who knew about the study? It's there though. We just guess and say, yes, yes. How do we do it? The next morning, I'm on the plane going back to LA, and the guy next to me is upset about how bad the world is, his kids, and the government. Things like that never crossed our minds to have a bad thought. It was all about what we want and how to get it. How can we help each other? You leave. That's pretty much what you should be doing, talking and focused on only what you want. If you keep saying that something isn't working, it will stop working even more. People tell me, I've done a lot of attraction for 3 months and I still don't have my cards. That doesn't work. You're focused on it doesn't work, so it won't work anymore. You should pay attention to where it works. Hey, I wanted to sit by the window at a restaurant, and I got it. These kinds of things happen to people all the time. What did I manifest? How's it working? At the end of each day. And we know that what we focus on grows. That's why you should only think about what you want. Okay? You will bring more of what you think about, talk about, dream about, or pay attention to into your life. In other words, you need to be very thoughtful and focused. We talked about 3 steps: ask, believe, and receive. So, I'm going to move on to the next part right now. We are going to talk about how to ask for what you want, believe for it, or make an energy match for it. You should always feel good. You bring more good things into your life when you're feeling joyful. When you're angry, upset, bitter, scared, or unsure, you're actually blocking out everything that wants to come into your life. Most of what you want is just waiting in the parking lot, but when you criticize other people and talk negatively, it pushes it away. But the faster you get over that, the faster things will come into your life. It's better to be thankful and have plenty, so let's talk about thanks for a moment. If you saw The Secret, you saw Lee Brower's Thanks Rock. John DeMartini won't get out of bed until he sheds a tear of thanks. He says, "Until that tear comes out of my eye, I do not get out of bed." John is a millionaire, probably 100 times over. He started out as a dyslexic child and was almost dead when someone took him in and told him something like, "I am a wise person, and everyone I touch is better for my wisdom." Since then, John has read every book written by a Nobel Prize winner in any field in the last 10 years. People used to tell him, "You need to drop out of school because you're ADD," and he did. When he was 14, he quit school. Thank you. Rhonda Byrne said, "I didn't start writing until I had so much gratitude in my heart that I would have a tear come down my face." She also said, "As soon as I was in that space, my fingers were just flying." Because she was in the space to receive, she wrote the book The Secret in about 3 weeks, and it sold over 3.75 million copies. Because when you're grateful, you're telling the universe, "I accept what you've given me. I appreciate it." This makes room for more to come in. Grace is a word we use to mean the grace of God. Gracias in Spanish means thank you. It comes from the same root word. Being thankful makes us feel more blessed, and that blessing runs through us into the world as creation, and the things we want come to us. Generosity and plenty. You should always give as much as you can. Barbara talked a lot about that today. Feel happy all the time. I now tell my students that they should set aside at least an hour a day to do the things they love. Being taught how to play the piano is what my hour is all about right now. My wife loves horse poop, petting our dog, cats, and all of us. They do it for someone else, not me. It could be listening to Bach, Beethoven, Bono, or something else. Some people like to paint or plant. I'm an ex-boxer who has a TV show in Canada, and I was giving a seminar there when a woman stood up and asked, "I have a question." I asked, "Great, what is it?" She said, "I haven't been happy or joyful in 7 years." I asked, "What happened 7 years ago?" She said, "My husband died." I asked, "Really? What did you do that brought you joy before your husband died?" She said, "Well, After about a week, she called me and said, "I can't tell you how happy I am." Doing things that make you happy are part of being happy. We all spend a lot of time doing things we think we should do. We don't do the things that make us happy. In other words, make it a habit to do the things that make you happy. It is like going on a happy diet. What this means is that if you can be happy all the time, like Mother Teresa, the Dalai Lama, or Mark Victor Hansen, 90% of the time, things will start coming into your life at a magical rate. Okay, so forgiveness is another important part. Forgiving someone is important because when you're angry, you're not happy, in love, or at peace with yourself, let go and let go of things. There are many strong ways to do this. An author named John Gray wrote a book called If You Can Feel It, You Can Heal It. Jerry John Polsky also wrote a book about how to let go of grudges. I mean, there are a lot of different ways. Use the one you find. There is a lot of technology that can help you get rid of a fear, like the emotional freedom technique and the 5-minute phobia fix. You can get rid of a bad belief in 5 minutes by tapping on certain acupressure spots. This is something we teach in our workshops. You can go into more detail. Always expect the best and be in a state of love. Always hope for the best. I basically told Mark what I thought. He said this morning, I don't think Al Gore will ever get 2.5 million people to watch that TV show. I told him, Mark, that's a negative thought. Expect the positive. If you don't expect that, it won't happen. So, you should always be expecting that it will happen. How many of you call Domino's Pizza, place your order, and then call them back to ask, are you guys really going to bring it over? You sure you're not kidding me? Yes, you do that. That's right. If you did that 3 or 4 times, they would put your number on their caller ID and stop taking your calls. Still, we do that all the time with the world. I'd like a Porsche, but I can't afford it. I'd like a Porsche, but, you know, whatever. These days, we should probably say, I'd like a Prius instead of a Porsche. It's becoming clear that some of the things we've been taught to want aren't that great for us. We need to find out more about them. Okay, I'll skip that slide now. This quote from Tiger Woods is great. He states, one of the things my dad kept instilling in me was the joy of the game. He made it fun for me. A lot of times I see a lot of kids, they don't enjoy being out there. It's a shame. You're supposed to enjoy the game. I agree about life. You should have fun with the game. Yes, go out there and give it your all, but more importantly, enjoy what you're doing. If you're not loving it, you know all the teachers say, do what you love, the money will follow. Follow your passion, follow your heart. I don't know if Alan Cohen told you this one-on-one, but it's something I learned from his book. Then he talked about this idea of hell yes or hell no. That's a really good thought. If you don't say yes right away, it's called screw it. Maybe, maybe not. Let me do it. I'll make a list of the pros and cons. If you didn't get an instant, yeah, I mean Lina Twist, who started the Hunger Project, and I met her about a year ago. She said, every summer we have 16 people over to our chateau. I just went, and she asked, would you like to come this year? I guess I said, yes, I want to come. It was like Malabar L. That's why you have to follow the energy and the juice. Mother Teresa once said, I once asked my counselor for advice about my vocation. I asked, how can I know if God is calling me and for what? The counselor replied, you'll know by your happiness. If you're happy, that's proof of your vocation. I think Thomas Edison said, when your vocation becomes your vacation, then the rest of your life is a blessing. So, you want to be paid to do the thing you love. When I teach, I ask people to write down 20 things they love to do. I wrote, I love to hang out with really cool people. I love to hang out with intellectuals who are thinking cutting-edge thoughts. I love to open my mail. I love to listen to music. Then I went through my list. I asked myself, how could I make money hanging out with really cool people? And the class leader replied, think of 5 ways you could make money doing that. Well, I just created something called the Transformational Leadership Council 2 years ago. There are 100 people in our group who are like John Gray. He wants to talk to you and Gay Hendricks tomorrow. Gay Hendricks wrote all the books on relationships. We get together twice a year for 4 days. Because of this, we've started a lot of cool businesses together, which has pretty much doubled my income in the last 2 years. I get to hang out with cool people and do things for money that I thought people used to do when they weren't working. so you want to keep doing what you love. The law of attraction says that you have to think that it is possible. Believe in your own inner guide system. That was something we talked about. I'd like to tell you a story about Cliff Young. Cliff Young showed up at the start of an all-out race in Australia when he was 61 years old. The race went for 875 kilometers, which is about 650 miles. The clothes he was wearing were overalls and work boots. The other guys were all dressed in running clothes from Adidas, Nike, Puma, and Asics. They were all 25 or 30 years old. He looked like a farmer from long ago. He wore galoshes over his boots, though. They asked, "Have you ever run a long-distance race before?" He said, "No." "Then why do you think you can do this? It's been about 6.5 days, if you've ever run a race." He stated, "No, but I'm a farmer, and I have to chase my sheep around, and sometimes I have trouble, and I have to chase them for 2 or 3 days, and I don't seem to get tired. I think I can do it." They asked, "Why don't you start with a shorter race?" He stated, "Well, this was the only days that were free on my schedule when it was a race schedule." They asked, "Okay." And then the gun goes off, and everyone in the race goes off. They're going really fast, and Cliff is running like this. A lot of people called it the Cliff Young's move. Now, Cliff had an edge that no one else did. Cliff had never talked to a teacher or a very good long-distance runner. There was no book or magazine about long-distance running that he had read. He didn't know that there are 18 hours of running, 6 hours of sleep, 18 hours of running, 6 hours of sleep, 18 hours of running, sleep, rinse, repeat. Being so slow, he didn't notice that everyone had gone to bed until he got there. They were all asleep. He didn't hear anyone tell him to stop and go to bed, so he kept running. He ran non-stop for 5.5 days, which was 12 hours longer than the record. Loud cheers. You see, what you think you know can get in the way of what you can do. You can do something if you think you can. You have to believe, though, that it will come into your life. This quote is great. It states, "Never tell anyone something cannot be done. God may have been waiting for centuries for somebody ignorant enough of the impossible to do that very thing." You know, you think about all the technology we have, like FedEx and airplanes. When the person who helped start FedEx was an MBA student at Yale, he gave a presentation on the FedEx process. They told him it was impossible and would never happen, giving him an F. Now, you use FedEx when you are sure it has to be there overnight. So everything we have today began as someone's idea or dream, and 9 times out of 10, they told you it couldn't come true. This is 19-year-old Farrah Gray. He was born in the slums, and his mother gets help from aid. He starts his first business when he is 6 years old. He has 3 businesses by the time he is 11. They paint rocks, go door to door, and sell them as paperweights. That said, on his first day, he made $50, which was more than his mother made when she was a maid. Then he got a group of kids together and told older people, "We'll go get your groceries and bring them back in our wagons. Just give us $2. The older man gave him one, and he kept the other one for himself. When he was 12, he made something called UNIC, which stands for the Urban Neighborhood Education Economic Council. He got business people like Harvey and many of you to come in and talk to the other 12 and 13-year-old kids to teach them how to run a business. He read Deepak Chopra's The 7 Laws of Spirit, which are the 7 spiritual rules for success, when he was 14 years old. The law of least effort said that you should do the thing that takes you the least amount of work, is the easiest thing for you to do, and is something you don't think anyone would pay you for. What do I love? I love food, and I love kids. So I'm going to start a food company for kids, he said. What do kids like? They like sweet things. So he made a syrup that tasted like maple syrup, using a recipe his grandmother used to give him, and in 1.5 years, he built the business. He sells it for $1.5 million now that he's 16 years old. He quits high school, goes to Las Vegas, starts a newspaper, then a real estate business, and finally a company that builds homes on land. He then writes a book called The Realionaire. He's now 19 years old and worth a lot of money. Why? He thought he could do anything he set his mind to. Like Farah said, if someone else can do it, I can do it. You can do it if Mark can. You can do it if I can do it. There is no if. Eric Weinmeier climbed Mount Everest even though he was blind. You have to believe that we can do it. In other words, you think that every project you start will lead to the outcome you desire. When I was on the Oprah Winfrey Show, sitting next to her, the aura or level of energy would almost knock you over. She said, "You do not become what you want, you become what you believe." She also said things like, "I believed this stuff long before it was called The Secret," and so on. But she thinks. She told herself as a child, "I can do anything I want," and then she did it. You can too. In step 4, it says to let go of the brakes. This phrase means to make an energy match. I'm going to talk about this for a little while. After that, I believe my time here is up. How are we going to do that? We have to feel the way we would if we already had what we want to bring into our lives in order to receive it. I need to feel rich first, then the million will come in. Before I can draw the love I want, I need to feel rich and full of love. As Gandhi said, be the thing you want. If you want love, be loving, and if you want joy, be happy. You'll get more of what you want. So, I'm going to teach you 4 quick methods. Most of you know these, but ask yourself, am I doing them? Number 1, promises. So, I have an encouragement since I'm basking in my $6 million a year personal income. Yes, it's up to 9 on my creation card this year. That's why you need a confirmation that says the result has already been reached. Whenever I close my eyes in the morning, I feel that phrase, I'm reveling in my income. I can see the bank account and my IRS form, which says that my gross personal income was $9 million. After that, I do something else. I used this one a long time ago. I enjoy looking at my body in the mirror, 185 pounds and in great shape. If you look closely, you'll see my face with brown hair cut out and put over a body from a muscle magazine. I put that on my mirror every morning. Every time I saw that, I thought, wow, I don't really look like that. So I'd go to the gym, lift weights, brush my teeth, and other things. I'm not going to spend 6 hours at the gym to look like that. However, it pushed me and told me, I'm already experiencing it right now, even though it wasn't true. By the way, that was a great trick, and I blame the person. Don't freak out in the AV crew up there. But I didn't want you to look like you were fooled. If you want to lose weight, take your scale and write down the weight you want to lose. Then, put the paper over the scale. So every time you step on the scale, you think, oh wow, 185 pounds, that's cool. Because when you step on it, you think, 220 pounds, that stinks. And what are you going to attract when you have that? That sucks will bring you 225 pounds of attention. So you're really just kidding yourself. You are telling your unconscious mind to make the 185, the 115, or any number you want. People asked me and Mark, what are you doing? While we were writing Chicken Soup for the Soul. The only thing we ever said was that we were writing a book. It then read, we're happy to say that 1.5 million copies of Chicken Soup for the Soul have been sold. One that I have right now as I share my loving, open heart and deep spiritual knowledge with everyone I meet. For every part of your goal, you need encouragement. This is one of mine. Say what you want to happen as if it's already happening, feel what it's like, and then you have it. This idea makes me happy. I'm happily driving my new BMW down the highway. You go to the showroom with your camera, sit in the car, look out the window, and say, take my picture. I'll be back in a month or two to buy this. Then you bring that picture home, print it out 8x10, 14x10, and put it on your fridge. It can also be your wallpaper. After that, it keeps making you think about it. That's my car, that's my car, that's my car. I did it. After about 3 months of working, a friend who owned an Audi R8 came over and told me about it. He said, "I'm going to Europe for 6 months. I don't want my car to sit because it needs to run. Would you be willing to use my car for the next 6 months?" Sure, why not? It's a great car. I didn't pay for it. You should go to the shop, sit in the car, and take your hands off the wheel. Feel how it feels, and get used to it. You should stay at the Four Seasons if you want to stay in a world-class hotel. You can just have a drink in the lounge if you can't afford a room there. Sit in the lobby of the Ritz-Carlton, whatever it is, have a drink, and watch the rich people walk by. Say to yourself, someday, that'll be me. Or, that's me now, because it is you. Get used to how you feel. Visit the castles when they have open houses where you can see the $10 million homes. My wife would say, "Why go? We can't afford it." I would tell her, "Yes, we will be able to. Now I live in a $6.25 million mansion. This means you want to get used to how you feel. You don't want to be unhappy." In some shops on Rodeo Drive, men's shirts start at about $450. Have you ever been there? When you walk in and see clothes that cost $2,000 or more, you have to tell yourself, "I don't belong here. They're going to ask for my Platinum American Express card, and I won't have one. They're going to throw me out like I'm homeless." To be honest, you should go in there and try on the shirts and suits. Once we had enough money, we went to Armani, and my wife tried on these clothes. She looked amazing. And I told her, "Honey, that's you." She said, "I know. Now we can pay for them." Back then, we couldn't pay for them, but now we can. So, all right, get into the mood of it. Make a goal board. How many of you have a wish book or a vision board? Here's one. All of this stuff is on a friend of mine's computer. His name is Rick Kidman. This one is great. This was sent to me by someone. This woman was by herself. She wanted to get married in Greece. Do you see the picture on her vision board? Then 6 months after making the vision board, she sends this to me. She met a guy. He asked her to marry him, and she said yes. They got married in Greece. Out of the blue. Mark wrote a book called Out of the Blue. It will appear out of the blue. Here are some of the things on my mood board. There's also a picture of Oprah. I was on her show. A huge amount of money. That body on the left side is getting stronger and more flexible, getting more rest. I'd like to meditate some more while I'm in India at the Taj Mahal. A picture of me and my wife. Have fun with my debt being paid off in full, etc. After that, I found this really cool video on YouTube. You could write this down. Malcolm Cohen is an Australian who has a show on YouTube called Thinketh So. These are some of the pictures that are now on my background after I learned that. This was while I was feeling very excited about speaking in front of groups of 5,000 or more people. In the past 3 months, I've spoken in front of groups of at least 5,000 people 10 times. At Arbonne, 1,700 yelling women were among them. Really cool, a lot of fun. I'm happy that 5 million copies of the book and DVD Success Personals have been sold. We're happy that more than 1 billion copies of Chicken Soup for the Soul have been sold. And someone made a Time magazine cover for us. It's an honor to work with powerful people to make the world a better place. It turned out that the woman who works as George Bush's reporter secretary had sent us 5 chicken soup stories we didn't know about. She then says, "I'm leaving to do something else. You'd like to eat dinner at the White House?" We went. We were able to go into the press room and take a shot of Tony Snow standing there and saying, "Yes, question, question." At 2 this afternoon, I'm still awake with Marth, and he tells me that he was with Jean Houston in Greece. Gene Houston is one of Hillary Clinton's most important advisors. He told you and Jack that he wants you to work with the Democratic Party to help them make the new government more aware of these issues. That was my trip, my vision board, my dream board, and my background. That was put in 3 months ago, and now everyone is being asked to play. I'm having fun playing golf on 12 great holes around the world. We played on one of them just now in the south of France, joyfully getting 26 soothing massages in 2007 and so on. Third, picture yourself every single day. I'm going to tell you a rule now. It's called the 30-day principle in this case. At NASA, work was done. The astronauts had to wear goggles with a curved lens for 30 days. It looks like the world is backwards when you wear concave lens goggles. Imagine that everything is backwards 24 hours a day for 30 days. You're trying to get up the stairs, and your soup looks like it's up there. You have to reach down to eat it. The main point of the experiment was to find out how the subjects would react to being in space without gravity. Would they get sick, lose focus, or become hostile? 25 to 30 days in, they found something they didn't expect. Each astronaut's brain turned the picture right side up again, even though it was coming in upside down. Their brain turned it around. The neuroscientists tell us that making a new nerve root in your brain takes 25 to 30 days. It takes 25 to 30 days for a new set of beliefs to stick. Getting into a new habit takes 25 to 30 days. Your affirmations and visualizations will start to change the way your brain sees the world in 25 to 30 days. That means that how you see things is part of what controls your world. There's something you're not aware of in your right foot right now, but as soon as I say right foot, you will. Your attention goes to the left hand, though, as soon as I say it. The truth is that all of these things were coming into your brain at the same time, but your reticular system was probably blocking out everything but what I was saying. It changes when I say right foot, though. That's why, after 30 days of imagining, the reticular system in your brain starts to let in everything that will help you become rich, end world hunger, work with the president, or do anything else. That's why you want to visualize every day for 30 days in a row, no matter what you want. As part of an experiment, half of the pilots took off their glasses on day 15 and then put them back on day 16. It was another 25 to 30 days before the event happened again. That's why you need to do 25 to 30 days. It makes sense. That's one reason why mantras don't work for most people. They don't use the tools every day for 30 days, which is one reason why many of the workshops they go to don't work. It's kind of like the idea of 10 24/7. Repeating it over and over again makes it stick in your mind, wakes up your perceptions, and programs global awareness around the world. Okay, this is one of the most useful things Mark and I have found. You start to behave like a millionaire before you actually become one. This is a cool method. It's called to come as you'll be party. If you've already done it, here's what you do. I went to a party with Mark. We are part of a group called The Inside Edge that we helped make. Had 100 cutting-edge people on it, like Tony Robbins, Barbara Diaz, and others. They had a party on the Queen Mary. When we got there, there were reporters taking pictures of us and a big red carpet. We had to act like it was 5 years from now and all of our goals had been met. Everyone had to act like it was 5 years later for 3 hours. There were people with written books around. Cell phones were ringing all around them, and people would say things like, "Oh, that's good, yeah." Yes, buy 5,000 shares. No, those will be sold. Yes, 10,000 of those. Good idea. They had a lot of great stocks that they were trading. Someone in their 20s was walking around with a cell phone while one of my classes was going on. He kept saying, "Jennifer, I told you not to call me here." This was not okay. The phone rang, and Jennifer said, "Leave me alone." "No," she said. I know I was the best lover you ever had, honey. I understand. I was the most sensitive person there was." I know you love me. Finally, at the end of the night, he gets one more call and says, J-Lo, leave me alone. I'm tired of it. People showed us shots of their boats, the farms they'd bought in Argentina, the camps they'd set up for kids who were homeless, and so on. Act as if works best when you do it for 2 or 3 hours straight and don't move. Go home. If you buy my book, Chapter 11 is called Act As If, and it has a whole part on how to make a to come as you'll be party. You can make a fake invitation and send it to people, but do that for real. It's a very strong thing to do. Allow me to bring this to a close now. One more thing I want to say. I'll quickly find it for you here. People who want to learn must stay inspired with the masters. This is one of the rules we follow. Harv talked about the masters, which is why principle number 8 in my method is stay motivated with the masters. There are many ways to do that. When you go to these kinds of events, you get the peak performance, ultimate training deal, or something like that. You keep hearing masterful ideas from masterful people. That cartoon was shared. This is a person named Jeff Arch. How many people know who Jeff Arch is? It looks like most of you have never heard of Jeff Arch. But wait, you will. One day, Jeff Arch was sitting there and being unhappy. He was unhappy with his life and said, "You know, I watch these infomercials on TV and all these people talk about how much money they make. I've always thought that was nonsense. It didn't work. I mean, their lives do seem to be going pretty well. They made money and are on TV, but I'm not." He wished to write plays. He had 2 plays written. They did a terrible job. He wants to get a real job. Our guest is a kid who used to run a boxing school and was unhappy. He then said, "I'm going to buy an audio program." The program cost $149. It changed his life after he bought it and listened to it. "Wow, I need to follow my dream," he said. He quit his job as a karate instructor because he wanted to shoot one more time. He told her, "I'm going to write one more play or screenplay." He wrote a screenplay about a movie, the plot being about Russians versus Americans, kind of like James Bond. When he got to California, the Berlin Wall came down the same day. Everyone told him, "We don't want a Cold War movie for a while because the Berlin Wall just came down. It doesn't make sense." He said, "Before I listened to an audio program, I would have said the world stinks. This is another case. I get messed up." And he said, "But the truth is, I just realized I chose a topic that wasn't timeless. So I thought, okay, what is a timeless topic that nothing in the world can change it? Love," he said. "Love. Love. Everyone likes. Love doesn't care what goes on in the world." He then asked, "What's a typical love story?" A boy meets a girl. 2 different families at odds with each other can't get together in Romeo and Juliet, and 2 different gangs can't get together in West Side Story. Take a look at who's going, a black man and a white woman. It's always this thing you have to get through as we go down the list. Everyone is happy in the end of the story. He asked, "What if I do something completely different? What if they don't meet until the very end of the movie?" He wrote a short script called Sleepless in Seattle, which made him $500,000, and now every screenplay he writes is worth $1 million because he's a Class A, top-tier author in LA. And it was one radio show that made his whole life different. The $149 that was put in turned into $500,000. The 9th success concept is that you need to learn more in order to make more money. Rhonda Byrne, who did The Secret, had a terrible life. Wallace Wattles's book, The Science of Getting Rich, was given to her by her daughter. How many of you have read that? That's something Bob Proctor will talk a lot about. The book that March read that changed his life. I read this book after reading Grow Rich and some other books, and it changed my life. She gets so excited about this book that she reads it. She asks, "Why doesn't everyone know this?" Then she spends a lot of money. Over the course of 4 months, I think she bought 300 books. She read more than 300 books about the science of success and the law of attraction. Maybe $1,000, $2,000, or $3,000 was how much she put in. She then makes a movie called The Secret, which costs $3 million to make. More than 3 million copies have been sold. They made $90 million because she was willing to learn more and become a student. This helped a director who was okay in Australia get a house just a block away from Oprah. She is now working on a second movie and a reality show based on The Secret with Harpo Productions because she was ready to invest in her growth. This person read my book. Take a look at all the little tabs. They learned more about it than I did. This is amazing. There are many more ideas than just success that we haven't talked about yet. Finally, a woman calls her pastor and says, "Reverend Jim, I just got back from the hospital and they told me I have terminal cancer. I was wondering if you could come over this afternoon." He says, "Sure, of course I'll come over." And he goes to her house to try to comfort her. She states, "Don't come for me, I'm fine. I don't understand healing. I just want to plan my funeral. Would you help me plan my funeral?" And he says, "Of course I'll help you plan your funeral." She states, "I want to be buried in this dress. I want this hymn sung. I want these kinds of flowers. I want a memory card to give to all the people that came. I want my picture on it. This is my favorite poem. I'd like that on it." She went on, all the things she wanted. Then she stated, "I want to be buried with my family Bible in my left hand and a fork in my right hand." He states, "Well, I understand the Bible. You're a very